Hello, everybody. Welcome to this class that we are going to be sharing a lot more about the cosmic elements. So this is part 3 of a series. If you have come to this video and you haven't caught the previous 2, I recommend going back and looking for those. So there's a part 1 and a part 2. So this will be part 3, where we're bridging from the earth realm elements, some of the intermediary elements that we met in the last group. And now we're going to move into the cosmic elements. But before we begin, what I thought I would do is share a little bit about how they came into being. And so a little bit about my background. I have been in the field of natural health for 25 years. And the reason I actually originally got into naturopathic medicine is because there was a real holistic focus. That was body, mind, and spirit. And, ever since, I was quite young, I remember being interested and drawn to the big questions like, why are we here? And so it led me to a lot of different spiritual teachers through the 90s, reading a lot of their work, trying to understand a deepening of, of the miracle of life, because it was never enough for me to just think we were here to live, work, suffer, and die. And, through those explorations, it led me to the study of yoga and the yoga scriptures and philosophies. And that's sort of initially where I met the work with the energy centers and then also some of the elements. When I started my naturopathic training, I was fortunate enough to meet vibrational medicine, so the flower essences. And so this then deepened into my interest of alchemy. Anyone that's worked with vibrational essences or remedies before know that they're made from alchemy. And the alchemy process uses the elements of nature to co-create something else, something more higher frequency. And so it was in those initial explorations that I really started, well, I say loving my fascination for the elements. But that said, I was often out in the backyard when I was a child, my mum always said, playing in the garden and talking to all my friends out there. I'm sure some of you can relate to that, relate to that as well. And so, this journey with the elements began very theoretically, and I was consuming everything that I possibly could through lots of different traditions, bridging some of the traditional Chinese medicine things as well. They have 5 elements too, but their 5 elements bridge the more earthly realm, which is why they have the wood and the metal. Whereas when you're in the Vedic system, it starts to bridge more into the etheric. And so they have ether, they have air and ether and light as we move up the energy centers. And so through my naturopathic studies and practice, I started connecting with different layers of information. And it became known to me once I allowed it that this information was coming through my higher self wisdom, but also connected to higher realm guides. And these higher realm guides for years started teaching me more deeply different ways to work with energy so I could really support my clients to get to the true underlying cause of physical disease. Because in the greater reality, energy is the underlying cause of everything. And when we become to have physical disease, it is the end stage of energy being disharmonious somewhere within our energy layers for so long that it eventually becomes to be expressed in the physical. And when it is shown to us in the physical, it's meant to be giving us a sign that something is out of balance. It's not meant to be, oh, here, you're a victim to this, you be suffering and do nothing about it, and just let us give you some chemicals or, other medicine to help to reduce the symptoms. It doesn't even address the cause of the problems. It just stops the symptoms so you aren't in discomfort in that moment. There's no long-term benefit because it's not getting to the underlying cause. And, that's a different story again. But, so what this took me down the path of was really looking more into energetics. So how can we get to the true underlying cause of disease or ill health by working through the energetics? And with the group that's here with me now, we were just having a bit of a chat. And, what I love most about working with the elemental energies is that they work very quickly. They're relatively simple once we know how to work with them. They're simple to work with, but it's in the repetition that creates the permanency in our energetic shifts. Because energy shifts quickly, but because we might have had a faulty belief all of our life, we might have had a subconscious, program or something else that isn't in alignment with our higher self-beingness, which is harmony, that might have come through generations. Some of this stuff comes embedded in the DNA, and we carry family patterns of behavior. And because these things have been in our energy for so long, that through habit, we can start to rewrite those same programs again. So we can do the energy clearing and the energy work to shift the energy at that time and create more harmony in our energy. But getting to the subconscious belief, the faulty belief, is what is the key to helping the long-term transformation. Because once we understand why it's there, we can make the conscious choice to do differently. Once we understand that, we've maybe carried a pattern through our family line about not trusting, about being in lack, about, not knowing our self-worth. A lot of these things can come through those family patterns as they can come through our lived experience, whether it is this timeline or other timelines. And so that ultimately is what creates distortion in our energy. And so when we work with the elements, we can use the different elements to help to clear. So things like, the water and the fire, and then we can enlighten with the more higher frequency elements and shine light on what's happening. And from there, our energy can actually come back into balance or come back into harmony with the truth of who we really are. And that is as peace and harmony. We are light beings in this incarnation. And so as we move through those beautiful earth realm elements and into the cosmic elements, these cosmic elements have arrived now to support us because firstly, we're able to access them because we're operating at a higher field of consciousness as a collective, but they're also helping to bridge that knowing back to the truth of who we really are, beyond the stories and beyond everything else. And so how these cosmic elements came into being, not come into being because they're there, they exist, but how they came through my awareness was that the guides started to show me how to work with them, with clients. And then a few years ago, I went on a camping trip. And the intention of that was to do a few days solo. And anyone who's done anything like a nature sit, Vision Quest, anything like that, the idea is that there's just you, your heart, your mind, your energy out in beautiful nature for days without any distractions. And what that does is it gives you the ability to be able to really dive into, who you be and, what comes up for you to allow that to be cleared. I think I'm quite fortunate because I've been working on my inner journey for so long that when I went out into that space, my energy is fairly clear these days, that I received information about first I received a deepening into each of the elemental energies and an expanded awareness of how we can work with those in our lives. And then also how some of these elements that they were sharing with me during practice are actually part of the realm of the cosmos, and they are elemental energies as well. And so I'm really excited to share more about those with you today. But before we begin, what I wanted to share with you as well is the Library of Sacred Elements. And so the Library of Sacred Elements is the culmination of this body of work. And each time it's presented, so periodically, I present live rounds where I take you through each of the elements. Over the period of a week. It's a 10-week journey, and we really have that opportunity to dive into each of the elements, and then we meet live to deepen into that, answer any questions, and all of those sorts of things. So I'm really excited. I will send more information to you about these, so I won't talk too much more about it during this presentation, but I just wanted to make you aware that there is the Library of Sacred Elements where you can move through it at your own pace. There are 10 volumes, one for each of the elements, and they contain teaching videos, daily practices, short little practices, as well as an initiation. And that was another thing that I received when I was out on that solo journey, was an initiation, a deepening into each of the elements to share with you. And so I'm really excited that that's available if that's something that, might interest you. If you do have any questions ever, do reach out. And yeah, so I'll share some more about that with you in the information below, or if you are on the live with me or part of this current series engagement, I have a super special to offer you as well, a bonus for participating in this masterclass live round. And so without further ado, the first of the cosmic elements is plasma. And so who's heard of plasma before? Interestingly, quantum scientists have more recently made a discovery of a new state of matter. And so, we used to have, or they used to just be an awareness of solid, liquid, and gas. And they've now discovered that there's another state of matter called plasma. And it exists somewhere in between. And they say they don't know too much about it yet because they haven't been able to control it. Funny, isn't it? They haven't been able to control it to study it more clearly. And yeah, so, what they do know is that it does operate interweaving with all of the other elements, which is precisely what it does. And what it actually does in this realm is it binds light into physical. It's like the interface between light and physical that actually holds light in this realm, that holds light in physical form. And what I find so fascinating is that, with this raising of consciousness that I'm sure you're all aware of, if you've come to this layer of the transmission, this raising of consciousness has been a co-creation. So it's this earth, well, the whole universe is participating in this ascension process of our collective, of our earth. And what happens is as the earth raises her frequency, we're raising our frequency, which enables her to continue to raise her frequency. And so it's this beautiful co-creation. Because we're, without getting too much into the why, but because we're free will beings, it can't be any other way. The earth and the universe just can't keep raising our earth frequency if we're not participating. And so it's this beautiful co-creation that's happening. And I know if we're plugged into mainstream media, we can't see any of that. We just the mainstream media just continues to have us plugged into the fear programs because it's at the opposite end of the spectrum of the love that we really are. And so when we're in fear, we can't access the love and the light. And so just turn that off. No, I'm not allowed to tell anyone what to do. It's against the laws of the universe, but I highly recommend to turn the television off because it is so much easier to start to be a part of the new earth reality when you're not constantly pulled back into the rubbish, pulled back into, the old stories. They both exist now. They both exist here in this same plane, but we have a choice as free will beings where we desire to operate. Where do we put our focus? And so this beautiful element of plasma and the auroras. Who's seen all of the beautiful auroras that have been coming through lately? This is plasmic light. This is plasmic light that's flooding into our earth plane for this very reason. It's plasmic light that's bridging more light into the earth, which is what's helping raise her frequency. Because, as we were talking through the elements, it's as we move through the different elements, it's a raise in frequency, which changes their state of being. And so this beautiful plasmic energy binds light. And so we can work with plasma again through the visioning. You can bring plasma into your meditation practice, your visualizations, and that's the invitation then for more light to be able to be stabilized, within your beingness. And so, like with the other videos, we're going to do a practice at the end, and we'll work a little bit more deeply with these. When we get into more of the cosmic elements, they're more of an experiential type thing than I guess a thought, a thought, or how we can conceptualize. Another thing I've been made aware of, that there's a bit, but I'm not going to go too much into them now, but it's related to our endocrine system as well. So our endocrine system is our hormonal system. And it's one of the reasons that as women, when our hormones start to decrease, our hormones decrease, they're not actually decreasing. What they're doing is they're moving from our physical more into our energetic selves. And this is how the traditional wisdom crone comes into being. And that's such a beautiful awareness, because it's not like, we're becoming less and less. We're actually becoming more, because our light body, through the shifting of plasma, is actually taking us more into our light body, which is how, if we allow ourselves to let go of the past, we can step into this wisdom, into this deep wisdom, because the deep wisdom is already a part of us. And so this wonderful plasma is a really beautiful substrate to work with. We can work directly with light, because the light will also encourage more plasma, the more light that we're holding. But to also weave plasma through that helps to stabilize the light in this current now, because it is that bridge. It's that bridge that exists between the light and physicality. It also plays a role in our manifestations. So when we're creating something in our imaginum, or receiving a vision or a projection of something that we, desire to bring into creation, it's that plasma that actually goes out to draw to it similar light forms that match that creation. And, this happens anyway, which is why it's a problem if we are stuck on faulty beliefs, because we draw more of that to us. So you might have heard of that if you've done studies in the laws of the universe, that energy magnetizes itself. And this happens anyway, whether we believe it or not. And so that's why when we're stuck in, the milieu of the old world, it continues to create itself. And so when we make the choice to create differently, that creates itself as well. So it's really fascinating, but it happens through plasma. And I do talk more about this in other bodies of work too. But to help you conceptualize that plasma a little bit more, it's because of that plasma that plasma interface that, that helps to bring these things into creation in that way. And so the next element is diamond crystal. And so diamond crystalline energy looks like sparkles, like literally. Oh, shiny things. I think that's why I love them the most, but don't tell the other elements. No, I don't love them the most. I love them all equally. But diamond crystal, and these diamond crystalline sparkles, that's how they come through as sparkly energy. And these sparkles are sparks of creation energy. And so what they do is they hold the frequency of creation. And as we met in the initial videos, is that energy comes into resonance with itself. That's why the elements are so potent, is that, we bring in water, it helps to harmonize our water. We bring in the earth energy, it helps to calm our energy to bring us into resonance with the earth. And so these diamond crystalline sparkles help us to remember that we are source energy as well. They raise our frequency enough for us to be able to come into resonance with that which we already are, which is this divine creation energy. And so again, you can bring sparkles into your meditation practice. And so through your energetics, when you're bringing things in through a meditation. So again, it's just visioning sparkles coming through, particularly if you have an area of disharmony that or you can just bring it through all of your energetics. And sit in the sparkles. You can sit in any of the elements and allow the elements to do the work. That's the beautiful thing, because they're carrying the energy. We don't have to do anything. We just don't have to. I don't like to use that word, but if we desire, we can call them in. You just call in these energies and sit in them, and they will do the work. That's another beautiful thing about these. We don't actually have to do anything. It's our human training that has taught us that we have to do things for things to happen. And, whilst that can be a way to get things done, it's effortful. But there's this beautiful balance point in between ease and effort. And I love in the Vedas, in the Ayurvedic texts, in the yogic scriptures, they talk about the bliss point being the point between ease and effort. And so between the doing and the being, when that culminates and comes together, that's this beautiful bliss point. So we don't always have to be efforting so much, which is really beautiful to start to, to lean into more as well, because then, we can be fueled by universal energy too, especially when we're in alignment with the highest good of all. And so these beautiful this diamond crystal energy is one for you to work with as well. As we move from there, we also have the all. So you might have met the frequency of all, or the concept of all, in earlier teachings that teach of the all that's connected with the crown. Because at that point, last millennium and millennia before, we were still very much stuck in the density of the 3D. And so the construct of our awareness kind of finished at the edge of physicality before it, bridged into the realms. But now with this ascension process, it's like we have our physicality, but we also have this beautiful awareness of energetics and the bridging of universal energy that's here in this particular time space now, ever since this millennium. And so we can operate a lot more and a lot more quickly with energetics in this way. And so sitting with the energy of all is an invitation for an awareness of unity consciousness. It's that unification that has been spoken about, through over a lot of time as well, as a human collective reaching unity. And unity happens because of like frequencies. And so this is I guess, the ultimate, not even goal, I don't like to use that word either, but the intentionality of this ascension is to allow people to expand their consciousness enough to remember that we are all already high frequency light beings. And then what happens is through common beliefs, there becomes a unification of energy. And this is what you find in the higher realms. The higher realms are much more unified, and it's really only in this physical incarnation that we experience true separation. And that's part of the experience and the part of the reason why we want to come back again, because we experience separation. We experience that isolation and the separation of being self as self. And so we can invite this energy of all to help us to understand more deeply the interconnectedness of everything, because everything is interconnected. And what happens is, as we start to recognize the interconnectedness of everything, it allows us access into more and more of the greater reality, because it's all there. The greater reality already exists here in this space, in this realm now. And within that greater, to be able to access this greater reality requires us to be able to hold a frequency match to higher frequency information. And we become a frequency match by allowing ourselves to let go of all of the stories of the past that aren't serving us anymore. It's not about ignoring it or pretending it never happened. It's moving into acceptance that that existed and still at this time continues to exist, but then also recognizing that we have a choice to do differently. We have a choice to create as we desire. And as we start to recognize that more and more, when we let go of this heaviness of the density, we do raise our frequency anyway. And that becomes this trajectory. And as we raise our frequency, our consciousness expands. And as our consciousness expands, we're able to access more higher frequency information, which is, our intuition, because our intuition is a direct connection with our higher self-beingness that does operate at that frequency already. And that's how we can know things that we haven't actually been taught. It's through these frequency dynamics. And so the invitation of sitting within all of the elements and allowing that understanding of the interconnectedness of all to arrive, because it's a frequency, sitting in the space of openness, allowing a deepening of an understanding to arrive. It can take time, of course, but to just come back to that. And that's what's so beautiful about a regular meditation practice, is that it continues to build. It continues to allow an opening and also an entrainment of just simply holding the space open. Because receiving intuition, receiving information isn't a seeking. Seeking is what the thinking mind does, what the human mind does, is it tries to seek answers. And so the entrainment to receive the greater consciousness is a receiving. And so that practice of meditation, to be able to come to stillness and simply sit, is where the magic happens. It happens in that now moment within the stillness. And so that invitation of the all, sitting within the energetics of the all, really helps to raise that frequency to be able to start to bring more of that through into your daily life, which is that growing in understanding that happens second to being a frequency match or becoming more and more of a frequency match in that way. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat box, and I can address those. If you are on the recording and you have any questions, please feel free to add those questions. If you have anything that's more personal ever, feel free to reach out as well. So the final of the 10 elements is the void. And so the void is the space from which all is birthed. It is at the center of the center of the center of everything. And it is the nothing. It is the nothing that brings everything back to 0 point. In this realm, there's a linear fashion that we believe everything operates in a linear way, but also as we become more aware of an expanded dimensional realities, is that nothing's linear. Everything operates in cycles. And so the all becomes the nothing, becomes the all, becomes the nothing. And these are the cycles that it operates in and through. I remember a beautiful experience when I was doing my second level initiation with the local Indigenous, and we were sitting in this cave. And as I was sitting there, I was shown what looked like a kind of like concentric circles, the concentric circles. But what was happening is the inside was coming out. And so it kept shifting from the black and white and the black and white, which was the yin and yang. But what it started showing me at first was that that's the all and the void, and the all and the void. One's births from the other, births from the other. Like nothing's separate. It's all that interrelation. And then once I had grasped that, it started spinning, and it showed me the yin and yang. And so, yeah, that was really fascinating that, nothing is separate of itself. That's what it's showing, that everything is interrelated, in that way. The light and the dark all has its necessity to be able to highlight the other. I do get asked that sometimes. It's like, if there's so much light and higher awareness, why is there this suffering? And it's, to journey through the darkness, which is why I believe that, we continue to return, is to experience the darkness so we can experience the light at even higher frequencies. If we never know suffering, how do we know absence of suffering? And so that as we allow ourselves to move through the old stories and the old suffering, there's another layer again of elevation, because you can recognize even more fully what it's like to not be in suffering, to be able to release those and be, more and more truly within light. Okay, I just have a question here. Can we sit in these cosmic energies in our meditations without going through the lower elements? Yes, certainly. I do recommend, great question, I do recommend anchoring into the earth first, because by anchoring into the earth, we're bringing it through to reality. We're bringing it through to the now. And so I always, whenever I'm working with clients, we always start grounding first. Because what happens otherwise is it's all etheric. And then when people come back into the now, it may not have come through entirely. And so great question, and thank you for bringing that forward. So always anchoring into the earth first, particularly when you're going to work with, the higher frequency information, because it keeps us grounded and stable, and much more easily, it's much easier to integrate the information when we're holding the connection with the earth. And so always grounding first, and then, yeah, certainly, invite the elements, play with them, notice how they feel. And, that's what they're there for. They're here for us, to support us. All right, yes. And so this beautiful void space is a space of suspension. It's a space of nothing. And entering the void space allows it's almost like a separating of your beingness into the void to experience complete stillness, the depth of stillness that happens in the void, And what it does is it helps to reset the nervous system. It's a really potent way to reset the nervous system. And how we can best access it is through light, because it exists right in the very center of the light. Because remember, the light is bringing the all to be birthed. And so when we dive right into the very, very center of light, you can access, well, I'll do a practice, we'll take you into this so you can experience it, because it is, like I said in earlier, it's experiential. It's beyond concept, but then it's not really beyond concept. And I think, and I'm so grateful, that this is one of my superpowers, is being able to explain complicated things. I guess, it's interesting when you look back on your life. Like I was a university academic for, a decade, or, even as a contract academic for a long time after that. And it was, my ability to be able to explain complex things, and, which interestingly leads me into, being able to do this work with that clarity as well. At the time, of course, I'm thinking, why am I doing this work? And it's like, so it all comes back together. I love how there's always a reason for everything, in that way. All right, so let's go on a journey, shall we? Sorry, I think we're taking a bit of time there. I went on a few extra tangents, but it felt important. It wasn't the plan, but it was coming through, and so it's obviously important to help to put a little bit more context around, but to also share with you kind of more of the greater reality of what's happening for hope, because hope is a frequency too that's continuing to stabilize this higher dimensional reality that's coming more and more into being. And the more stable it becomes by more of us being in that space more frequently, it's making it easier for everybody else to also access higher frequencies, because of the interconnectedness, because we are collective energy. So when we don't do the work that we do just for ourselves, we actually do it for our entire collective. And that's how the shift's happening. So it is really exciting. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a little practice now. So if you want to get nice and comfortable, and once you're comfortable, closing down your eyes, and then starting to turn inwards, bringing your awareness onto your breath. As you breathe in and you breathe out, as you're using that beautiful breath as an anchor into the now. And so as you feel your breath, it also helps to stop the busyness of the mind. Because if you're truly following the breath, you can't be thinking at the same time. And so just really feeling into your in-breath and into your out-breath, bringing you into this very now, noticing yourself exactly where you are. You don't need to worry about before or after right now, just being present in this moment. And as you take a breath in, feeling into that beautiful expansion offered by the air. And then as you breathe out, anchoring your energy down into the earth. And as you take your awareness into the beautiful earth, just feeling her energy and noticing how that's feeling for you in this moment. connecting in with that energy of stability, that energy of support, that energy of stillness, that beautiful energy of holding. She's always there no matter what, in support. And can you soften a little more into the beautiful arms of Mother Earth, knowing that she's got you? And we have all of our higher realm guides here as well, supporting you. And so as you take another big breath in and as you breathe out, can you soften a little more into that beautiful space of stillness and in the now? And as you continue to stay anchored into the earth, bringing your awareness now back up to your heart space. And as you consciously take some more breaths through your heart space, you might imagine you're breathing in through the back and out through the front and back in through the front and out through the back. Just gently starting to move some energy through there. You might imagine a spinning vortex or the energy just gently starting to spin in that area, just softening and opening the energy of your beautiful heart. As you take a few more breaths into that, I invite you now to dive deep into your heart, right into the very center. It might be down a deep well or out in the cosmos. Just being open to whatever's there for you is perfect. And you might notice a light. Seeing if you can find a light deep in your heart space, right in the very center. It might be way off in the distance, or maybe it's a little closer. Once you connect with that light, just breathing into it. And as you breathe into it, it starts to come forward. That this is your light. That light of source. That same light that exists within all things, no exceptions. And so as you breathe into your beautiful light, inviting it into the now, as it fills your heart space, your light doesn't require any effort because it already is, and it is unlimited. And it only needs your acknowledgement for it to be present in any moment. And so as you breathe into that and allow it to fill your heart space, helping to harmonize the frequency of your true heart, a beautiful gratitude and joy that is your true nature, beyond the distortion, beyond the illusion of the old world. And so as you see it in your glorious heart space, illuminated by your light, just taking a few more breaths here. If you're finding it difficult to connect with your light, please keep trying. It is there. There's just sometimes there's a lot of layers in between that, but I guarantee you, if you keep coming back to the practice, that it will start to appear every time. And so bringing that your beautiful light illuminating and radiating out now from your heart space. And just taking a moment to feel into that. Notice how that feels for you, knowing there's no wrong. And now I'm going to invite you to dive deep, right into the center of that light, right into the center of your light, seeing if you can find a little space right in the very center. And as you move into that space now, this is the 0 point, the void, the space from which all is birthed. Now, if you can enter that space now, noticing how that feels for you, that suspension, that nothing, that space of reintegration. And in this space, feeling that deepest sense of calm because there's nothing. And breathing into that. And we're inviting a recalibration of your nervous system, that interface between your physical and energy. We're inviting that beautiful energy of deep release all through your nervous system, all through your entire being. Noticing if you feel any stuckness anywhere. Seeing if you can let that go too. Absorbing this 0 point frequency. And in your own practice, you can sit here as long as you need. What we're going to do now is start to journey back out. And as you move out, come back out of the void now, it's like a rebirth into the all, through the light, and back into the now. And as you move through that light, seeing if you can notice the plasma, this plasmic quality. And as you're moving through that, we're inviting more of the plasma, bringing more of the light back with you into the now. And as you move through that space and start to gently become aware of yourself back in the now, filled with even more light than before, more plasma and more light. We're inviting the diamond crystalline energy now to start to swirl and move through all of the energy around you. And as these sparkly swirls move through your energy, they're bringing with it the frequency of source creation. And as they become brighter and more vibrant in your field in the now, they start to move through you as well. starting to move through your light, helping all parts of you remember that you are this creation energy. There's nothing you need to seek, and you're certainly not broken because you are already this. So as this beautiful diamond crystalline light continues to weave through all layers of your being, simply being open to how the sparkles appear to you in this moment. They can change depending on what they're reharmonizing in your energy at any time. Perhaps different colors might be reflected in different areas. Try not to control it. It's allowing it to be as it is. And trusting the elements to do what they're here to support us with in highest alignment for the benefit of all is where all of this work operates. And so as this beautiful sparkly energy continues to move and swirl through your beautiful light, it's going to continue to work with you in the coming days. And of course, any time that you take the time to sit and invite any of these energies that we've been working with through this process, through this series. If you're on the recording, I'm going to leave you in that beautiful space and just allow yourself to remain in that space until you feel complete. Until you feel complete. So I'm going to love you and leave you now. I'm sending you all my love. Mwah.